Hi everyone, I am Dr. Kibet and I'm ready to welcome you to our class today. The topic of our class is the guidance and the counseling process. First and foremost, I would like to say that in the guidance and counseling process, the first encounter with a client before any counseling session starts is of great importance. The first meeting sets the style and the tone for the kind of interaction which will follow between the counselor and the client. At this juncture, I want to give the definitions of the counselor and the counselee. A counselor is a person trained to give guidance on personal or psychological problems. And a counselee is a person normally referred to as a client who is being counseled. In the counseling process, building a relationship is very important. So, as we prepare for guidance and counseling, we need to build what we call a rapport. And to establish a rapport in counseling means opening up a good working relationship between the counselor and the counselee. It is important for the counselor and the client to understand that they are entering into a professional relationship which is different from a social one. Although personal issues will be discussed and feelings may be aroused in both of them, the counselor should initiate a rapport by doing the following things. 1, being friendly and creating a friendly atmosphere. Being welcomed by making a client feel at home. Being open by introducing yourself, that is stating one's name and the basics of one's background. Being respectful, that is treating the client with utmost respect as a human being. Knowing the client's name and background. Accepting the client as he or she is being appropriately dressed. Being honest and showing a measure of trust and reliability. And conducting oneself with a measure of confidence, assuring the client of confidentiality. So what are the factors that are supposed to be considered during counseling? Attending to and building a relationship requires a counselor to consider the following factors that are key in any counseling process. 1, communication. Communication is the articulation of sending a message through different media, be this verbal or non-verbal. In most cases, a counselor and a counselee will communicate verbally. However, the counselor should also be on the lookout for non-verbal cues that would help him or her interpret their meaning. The other factor is the eye contact. A good communication requires appropriate eye contact. When making an eye contact, counselors need to be sensitive to what is appropriate to the client. The counselor should not continually stare into the client's eyes while they are talking, as this would make them uncomfortable. However, it is equally not appropriate to spend most of the time looking away because the client may think that the counselor is not listening. There should be a sensible balance so that the counselor and the client constantly make eye contact while glancing away at times. The other factor is the facial expression. The client needs to get the message from the counselor's facial expressions, which suggests that he or she is interested in what the client is saying, and more importantly, that the counselor does not disapprove of or charge the client. On the other hand, the counselor should take note of the client's facial expressions to be able to gauge factors such as feelings and the mood. The other factor is the physical closeness. A counselor has to be aware of the fact that individuals have personal comfort levels, which regard to physical closeness, which can be depending on the nature of a relationship. Clearly, physical closeness conveys a message, and every person has personal, social, and public spaces. Public space. So public space is a physical distance which individuals reserve for others who are in a relationship with them. For example, husband and wife. A counselor gets into this space because it will make a client very angry. A counselor getting into this space because it will make a client very uncomfortable. The other factor is the body posture and body language. The position and the posture of the counselor's body will give significant messages to the client who has come for counseling. Generally, the best approach is to try to adapt, to the extent possible, a similar posture to that of the client. A counselor should not take it for granted when a client yawns, shakes his head, or shoulder folds it, or a client folds his hands, or moves his or her eyes. Any body movement during counseling is likely to have a message behind it. The counselor should not assume to know what the body language, but should let the counselee talk when willing to do so. The voice matching. This is another factor. Another type of matching that relates the tone of the voice and the loudness or softness of speaking. Sometimes the client is agitated and speaks hurriedly and quickly. Initially, it may be useful to match this hurried style as a way of starting. One of the disadvantages of matching is that it tends to become reciprocal. Short responses. Short responses are used during discussion to show client that the counselor is listening and following the story. These are needed during face-to-face discussions as well as over the phone. Such short responses may include, haha, yes, really, oh, right, is that so? I see, oh, I understand. In short, verbal responses are used too frequently. When they are used too frequently, they become intrusive. The smell, olfactory. Smell can either make a counseling session succeed or completely put off a counselee from listening. The smell of a perfume can make a client vomit if it reminds him or her of an earlier bitter experience. A counselor should not feel undermined if a client comments negatively about the smell of the counseling room. And that marks the end of our topic today, which we have discussed about the guidance and the counseling process. Thank you and bye-bye.